In network analysis, small errors do not stay small. They become structural distortions. A mislabeled institution, a missing timestamp, or an unnormalized exposure can change the apparent topology of the whole network. So this lecture is really about protecting validity. Before we measure centrality, simulate contagion, or infer systemic risk, we have to make sure the network itself has been built on clean and logically consistent data. This slide gives us the full pre-processing pipeline, and it is worth studying carefully because it summarizes the entire lecture. The inputs on the left include filings like 13F and 10K, tick data, and news feeds. Those raw inputs pass through 4 gates. Gate 1 is entity resolution, which means making sure that different names referring to the same institution are unified into one identity. Gate 2 is cleaning and imputation, where we decide how to handle missing or noisy edge information. Gate 3 is normalization, where edge weights are rescaled so that large institutions do not dominate the graph purely because of their size. Gate 4 is topology filtering, where we prune noisy structure and preserve the meaningful graph backbone. The final result is a valid network topology. A flaw in preprocessing leads to hallucinated systemic risk. In other words, the wrong pipeline can create fake fragility or hide real fragility. Now we look at what the slide calls data pathogens, which is a vivid and useful phrase. These are recurring problems in raw financial data that can infect the network if we do not correct them. The first is entity ambiguity. A bank like Goldman Sachs may appear under several slightly different names, causing one institution to be split into multiple nodes. The result is fragmented liquidity and a misleading map of the system. The second is temporal misalignment, such as comparing quarterly 13F filings with high-frequency tick data. That can create look-ahead bias and impossible correlations because the time horizons do not match. The third is scale distortion. If a $10 billion loan and a $10 million loan are treated with equal raw weight, centrality becomes a measure of size error rather than structural role. Finally, topology artifacts like self-loops and isolated nodes can distort density metrics and break contagion simulations. So this slide teaches a powerful lesson. Bad data does not just make the numbers noisy. It can change the shape of the network itself. Entity resolution. The funnel diagram is a great visual metaphor. At the top, we see several name variants like JP Morgan, JPM Chase, JPMC, and JP Morgan Chase, and company. To a human reader, these may obviously refer to the same institution, but a computer will often treat them as separate entities unless we intervene. The funnel uses fuzzy matching algorithms to collapse those variations into one canonical identifier, shown here as something like a unified JPM canonical ID. The slide mentions Levenstein edit distance and Jarrow-Winkler similarity, which are measures of how similar two strings are. The note about blocking is also important. Blocking means grouping likely matches first, for example by country or sector, so that we do not compare every name to every other name and overload computation. The key idea is simple. Before building the graph, we must be sure that one real institution corresponds to one node and not 5 slightly different spellings. Here we move to graph hygiene, which means removing topological artifacts that should not remain in the final network. On the left, the before picture contains 2 common problems. The first is a self-loop, where a node has an edge to itself, such as A lending to A. In some settings, self-loops may be meaningful, but in many financial network applications, they are artifacts that distort basic metrics. The second problem is isolates, nodes that are not connected to anyone else in the network. If we are analyzing contagion or connectivity, isolates often add noise rather than insight. On the right, after removing self-loops and isolates, what remains is the giant connected component, which is the main body of the network where interactions actually occur. The practical lesson is that network cleaning is not just about making the picture prettier, it is about making sure that the topology being analyzed reflects meaningful economic relationships. Edge direction validation. The 2 scenarios on the slide show why direction cannot be assigned casually. In scenario A, labeled liability, the edge runs from borrower to lender because the repayment obligation flows in that direction. In scenario B, labeled exposure, the edge runs from investor to issuer because the risk transmission is defined by who suffers if the issuer defaults, Notice how the same pair of actors can be connected differently depending on what the edge is meant to represent. This is the crucial insight written at the bottom. Reversing an edge flips the meaning of debt rank and other contagion measures. So whenever we build a directed graph, we must validate the column definitions against the actual flow of risk, not just the flow of money or the naming convention in the raw table. Now we turn to missing values, or NANs, and this slide gives a very helpful decision tree. The first question is not how to fill the missing value, but what the missing value represents. Sometimes NaN means non-existence, as in a sparse matrix where no loan exists between Bank A and Bank B. In that case, zero fill is appropriate because the absence of a link is itself meaningful. Sometimes NaN means reporting failure, such as a price feed going down or an exchange holiday. In that case, we may need to impute a value, often by interpolation or another time series method. And sometimes NaN means irrelevance, for example when a stock has been delisted or an entity no longer belongs in the network. Then the right action may be to drop the row or column entirely. The important lesson is that missingness is not one thing. It has meaning, and that meaning determines the correct pre-processing response. This slide narrows in on imputation in time series and compares three methods visually. The graph shows a missing segment between point A and point B. One option is linear interpolation, which draws a straight line between the two observed values. Another is forward fill, often abbreviated ffill, which carries the last known value forward until new information arrives. The slide marks forward fill as preferred for this setting. Why? Because in many financial contexts, especially for correlation networks built from traded prices, the last known traded value is often the most realistic assumption during a temporary gap. Mean imputation, by contrast, is shown as problematic because it distorts volatility. And volatility is exactly what many financial network measures depend on. So this slide is teaching us a domain-specific principle. The best imputation method is not just statistically convenient. It has to preserve the economic meaning of the data. The 10 billion versus 10 million problem. On the left, with raw weights, the gigantic 10 billion bank visually dominates the network simply because of size. If we compute centrality directly on those raw exposures, the ranking may tell us more about institution scale than about structural importance. On the right, after normalization, the network reveals a more balanced structure where relative position becomes visible. We normalize to reveal structure, not just size. In finance, this matters a lot. A huge bank will naturally have large nominal exposures, but systemic significance is often about proportional vulnerability or relative influence, not just absolute dollar amounts. So normalization helps us distinguish topology from sheer balance sheet magnitude. This slide summarizes three common normalization techniques, and each one serves a slightly different purpose. Min-max scaling compresses values into the 0 to 1 range, which is useful when we want comparability and bounded inputs. Log transformation is especially helpful for fat-tailed distributions, including power law-like data, because it compresses extreme values without ignoring them. The formula here uses the logarithm of 1 plus exposure. The third method, relative exposure, is especially meaningful in finance. It defines the edge weight as exposure from I to J divided by total assets of institution I. That turns the weight into a proportion of the lender's or holder's size, which is often much more relevant for contagion modeling. So the lesson is not that one normalization method is universally best. It is that the method should match the economic question. Are we trying to stabilize scale, reduce skewness, or measure vulnerability relative to balance sheet capacity? Temporal alignment, which is one of the trickiest parts of combining financial datasets. At the top, we have daily stock returns, which are high frequency. At the bottom, we have quarterly 13F filings, which are low frequency. These two timelines do not line up naturally, so the slide shows forward filling as a way to align dimensions across time. That means each quarterly holding disclosure is carried forward until the next disclosure date. The note at the bottom adds another important reminder. Raw prices are non-stationary, so we should convert them to log returns before mixing them into a network process. Let's pause on stationarity. A stationary series has statistical properties like mean and variance that are more stable over time. Many models assume that property. So, temporal alignment is not only about matching calendars, it is also about transforming each data source into a form that is statistically and economically compatible with the others. This slide presents the target data structure that many pre-processing pipelines ultimately produce, the temporal edge list. The table contains source ID, target ID, weight, and timestamp. The use of LEI-style identifiers is important because LEI stands for Legal Entity Identifier, a standardized way to identify institutions across datasets. The timestamp column turns a static graph into a time-aware graph, allowing us to reconstruct snapshots, rolling windows, or event sequences. The bullets at the bottom highlight best practices. ISO 8601 date format, UTC time zone alignment, and consistent snapshot frequency, such as end of day. These may sound like small implementation details, but they are actually critical for reproducibility and valid temporal analysis. A dynamic network is only as reliable as its timestamp logic. If clocks, date formats, or observation intervals are inconsistent, the resulting network can easily tell the wrong story. Now we come to topology filtering, the final stage of refinement. On the left is a very dense graph, almost fully connected, which is hard to interpret and likely contains many spurious relationships. On the right is a much cleaner structure produced by the PFG filter, which stands for planar maximally filtered graph. The annotation says it retains 3 times n minus 2 edges. That is a formal way of saying the method preserves a sparse but still informative backbone while imposing a planar structure. The sentence at the bottom explains the goal clearly. Filtering removes spurious noise to reveal the true hierarchical backbone of the market. In other words, when a network is too dense, not every edge deserves equal attention. Filtering methods help us distinguish meaningful structure from statistical clutter, especially in correlation-based financial networks. We close with a pre-processing protocol checklist, and this is a very valuable summary for practice. First, have entities been resolved so that unique IDs are assigned? Second, have hygiene checks removed self-loops and isolates where appropriate? Third, have edges been validated so that directionality matches the actual flow of risk? Fourth, have missing values been handled according to their meaning? Fifth, have weights been normalized to remove scale bias? Sixth, have timestamps been aligned so the temporal structure is consistent? The quote at the bottom is the perfect final takeaway. Data pre-processing is not a preliminary step. It is the primary determinant of network validity. That is exactly the spirit of this lecture. In financial networks, pre-processing is not housekeeping. It is the stage where validity is either built or lost.